Now let's get to the fun stuff of installing this game.exe file on our Windows 10 machine. So I have two machines here, two virtual machines. This CentOS 7 machine is the attacker machine where we created the payload with Veil. Now we're going to go to the Windows 10 machine, which is also a virtual machine, but also will be used as the victim machine. So let's go to the Windows 10 machine now, and I'll show you how we can install the payload here. Now, if I go to the Windows options, I want to look for the Windows Defender just to confirm what is available. So we have the default Windows Defender desktop application here. If I click on this, you will see that it is running and it is up to date. So with that in mind, let's just confirm that is the case. As you can see, real-time protection is on and virus and spyware definitions are up to date, which confirms that this machine is up to date with the latest antivirus. Now, what we want to do is then go ahead and download the game.exe file from our previous machine and load it up on this machine. If I had two physical machines, I would have copied the game.exe file on the CentOS 7 machine to a USB drive and then move the USB drive to this machine. Because we are running a virtual machine environment here, let's just confirm what version of Windows 10 is running here, so you can actually see the settings on this particular machine, and then we'll go ahead and download the game.exe file. So within Windows 10, I just want to see what this PC settings are. So let's click on this and we will see the properties for this machine include that this is a Core i5 machine. So let's just confirm all the settings are correct. Here we have the Core i5. We have 1.46 gigabyte of installed RAM. It's a 64-bit operating system, Windows 10 Pro, and it's not a top-of-the-line spec machine, but it's working well. It's running Windows 10, and we can now go ahead and go to the other machine and get the executable file that we will then copy to this machine. Now I'll talk about a couple settings that we had created in the payload and then explain to you how we can detect that on this machine. So let's also get the IP address of this machine. So I want to go to the network settings, and we have two Ethernet connections here. One's Ethernet and one's called Ethernet 2. And what we do here is just check the IP addresses for the two different ones. We see this. This is the one connected to the internet. This is the other Ethernet cable that we want to get the IP address for. This is the address 192.168.56.103. We also want to make sure the firewall is disabled for now so that we can get the file working on this machine. So let's go ahead and check. Yes, the firewall is disabled. So now we can begin getting that game.exe file and moving it to this Windows 10 machine, and then check whether it is detected as malware or virus by Windows Defender. Let's go ahead and get the file from the other machine, and what I'll do is copy that to a virtual USB drive, and we will then make sure the USB is enabled on both machines. As we can see here, we've got a path listed here in green. What I want to do is copy this path, and then I want to copy the payload to, I'll just put a copy command in the beginning of this and copy it to the root directory, so we can then move it to the USB drive. So let's put in root here, which will then copy the file. So we have the game.exe file. If we look here, we will see the game.exe file listed here on the left hand side. And now we can download this, and if we download it, we can then set the path to the USB drive, the virtual USB drive, and it will then be available to us when we run the Windows 10 machine. So let's go ahead and go to this PC. We have USB 3 here. I'll move it to USB 3. Now that's copied. Once that's been copied, we can go back to the Windows 10 machine and make sure that it is enabled there. So all I did was download it to this USB drive, and that would have made it available on that drive. On the Windows 10 machine, if I go to the Explorer and let's have a look at that folder, if we can find that drive. If the drive is not visible, as we'll note here, the drive is not available. It means that I haven't mounted the USB drive. So let's go ahead and make sure that we mount the drives correctly. Let's go back to both the machines under shared folder settings. Let's go ahead and do that and make sure that we share the folders correctly on both machines. So once I click on this shared folder settings, we will see the shared folders here. And let me go to the other machine and do the same here and mount the proper folder correctly. And once we mount these, we'll be able to see that folder on both machines. So once we see the screen load up under shared folder settings, we click on machine folders, and here I can select the folder path, other, and folder name. Let's find the USB drive under this PC. Scroll down, here we have the drive, so I select that drive, make it read-only, auto-mount, and make permanent. Click OK, and click OK again, and I then need to go to the Windows 10 machine. Click on the little symbol on the right here, and select the folder path. Then go to this PC, select the USB drive, click OK, check all these again, click OK, and then click OK again. Now, if the drive is not visible, it's because this machine is being run in a virtual environment. We need to reboot the Windows 10 machine, and only after we reboot the machine will we be able to see that particular drive. Now, one thing I also want to let you know is when we created the payloads, we had set the encryption to no, and I'll show you the importance of that in a short while. But once we reboot this machine, we'll be able to copy the game.exe file across. So let's restart this machine, and once it's restarted, we'll be able to access that USB drive on both machines. We have copied the game.exe file already to that USB drive. Now, once Windows 10 is up, we'll be able to access that drive, then copy the game.exe file across and see whether Windows Defender actually detects the malware. Now, let's go ahead and check that now. Here's Windows 10 running. Once this opens up, we'll be able to log in. Once logged in, we'll be able to browse to that particular folder. Again, it might take a short while depending on the processor speed you have, but it's not a very long wait. As we'll see now, Windows 10 will show up, the desktop will open up, and we'll be able to browse to that folder. Now, I mentioned the encryption, and you'll see why that is important. So here we have the Windows 10 machine. Let's go ahead and log in. Once logged in, we will go to this PC and browse to that folder. Let's go ahead and log into this machine, and we will go to that particular folder and make those changes to find the game.exe file. Let this load up, and once we're in, we will copy the game.exe file across. Again, it may take a short while. We're running on a virtual machine here, so it tends to take a little longer. the Windows Defender is up to date, and as you'll see, we haven't encrypted the payload. We will look at both options shortly. First, I want to show you what happens when we have the payload without any encryption. So let's go back to the folder, the Explorer here, and we browse to the folder to find that USB drive. Hopefully the shared drive appears this time. And once we see that folder, we'll be able to access the game.exe file. Here we go. And once that loads up, we will browse to the folder which has the USB drive. So I click on this PC. And within this PC, we will start seeing the appropriate folders. As we'll see here, we have the I drive, which is now called E. And if I click on that, we will see the game.exe file within that folder. What I then want to do is copy that game.exe file to this machine. Let's go ahead and show you when we go to the veil evasion again. Let's just run this program. What we'll see is there are within those options, when I go to use 34, we have something called the encryption, which is called use Furion. Now within use Furion, you can see here we have marked it as no. That means encryption is turned off. Now when a malware is not encrypted, chances are very high that the Windows Defender or any antivirus would know these signatures and then detect them very easily. So let's copy this to our Windows machine. And if I paste this, let's try and run this program. When I open this program, let me double click on it, and we should be prompted with a message saying something along the lines that this is a virus of some sort. If Windows Defender is up to date, we see here successfully because the file contains a virus or potentially unwanted software. That means Windows Defender, as we can see in the bottom right, malware has been detected. As we had not used the encryption, this was easily, very easily detected by Windows Defender on this Windows 10 machine. Now, a skilled hacker would not be using the payload without the encryption. A skilled hacker would be ensuring that the payload is run with a encryption mechanism in place. So what we've done here is just created a simple payload with the encryption off. Now we'll go ahead and create the payload again with the encryption on. So to put the encryption on, we'll copy this use Furion. Let's copy that, and we simply put in the option Y next to it, and that will give us the encryption on. So if I click on options again, we will see that the options, it says yes. I need to put in the IP address again. So we need to set the lhost to the IP address we had previously, 192.168.56.101. Now we have all these settings. Under options, we will see that the architecture is 32, and let's have a look here. It says compile to exe. It has the lhost, it has the lport, and it has use Furion as yes. Don't worry about 32-bit. 32-bit will work on a 64-bit machine, so we are good to go. And then we'll create the payload again.